I'm here at Rodney Parade, the home of Newport County, where 7 years ago Mark O'Brien scored the goal that stopped the club from dropping out of the Football League. Just a couple of years later, Mark had to retire from football due to a heart condition. I'm here to find out more about his story. Well, Mark, thank you for joining me. I just want to take you all the way back to the start of your senior career first, when you were at Derby. Obviously, you made your debut at the age of 16. But before that, what was that like, making the move across to a new country at a young age and having to settle into that environment?
Do you know what? I absolutely loved it. Getting to move away for a sport that it's what dreams are made of, and I got given the opportunity when I was 15 to sign professionally for Derby. So once they gave me that contract, I was very strong-minded on what I wanted to do, and the love of football took over. So whether I had to move halfway across the world or whether it was just across the water to England, my decision was already made, and going to play football was all that I ever wanted.
Mm-hmm. And you made your debut at 16. How did that come about? What was the sort of lead up to that? Were you expecting it when you were named in the squad on that day, or was it a bit of a surprise to you?
It was a bit of a surprise. It was like a whirlwind of a season. I started off with the under-16s because, again, I was only 15 when I moved away. And then when I got to register for Derby at the age of 16, I got to start playing for the academy side, which the under-18s. And then I got an opportunity to play for the reserve team against the Glen Hoddle Academy. So then the manager thought I'd done really well in that. Got another chance in a reserve team game. And I was doing really well that season. And the manager himself pulled me the week before the game and said it to me parents and said it to me, saying, look, you're going to be training with us next week. So they came in on the Monday, and I didn't really think anything of it. Came in on the Monday, dragged me down training with the force team, and once I trained with them all week, I thought, well, that's me, like, a little bit of an incentive to do really well here. Didn't expect a debut, didn't expect a chance with the force team. And then he asked me if I wanted to travel to Watford away. And then once I seen I was on the bench, as I say, I remember the game where there was, in the first half, they were 3-0 down after 45 minutes. And then they came back out for the second half. And Lewin Nyatanga, who was the centre-half at the time, he was not having the best of games. And on 60 minutes, the second lad who was on the bench with me looked over the assistant's shoulder and said, you're going on after 60, which I didn't believe. And then on the 59th minute, go out, warm up. And at the age of 16, I didn't know what a warm up meant. I literally walked out, and I think I stretched my hamstring once, and then they called me back in. And it was it was like one of those moments where all the manager said to me was, go out there, kick it and head it and be a defender, which is something that I always loved doing. And once I went out there, I'd love to always be able to watch it back and see how I actually done. But in the moment that it was, I absolutely loved every minute, and it really cemented why I moved away from Ireland. Like, because not many people get given that opportunity at 16, so it was something that it meant a lot to me, and as I said, really cemented that this is the job for me. I've made the right choice.
And at Derby, when you were in the squad there, you had a number of senior figures around you, like Rob Hulse, Robbie Savage. How important for you was it to have players of their experience who could put their arm around you and sort of guide you through while you were sort of coming through at a young age?
Yeah, Robbie Savage was amazing for me. He was very loud, king of the banter type person around the training ground and around the force team. But being a young player coming through, he kind of showed me the fundamentals of what it takes to be a force team. Like, you can never get too carried away with yourself. And he was always somebody who would, like, integrate you in by giving you a bit of banter, by, like, putting an arm around the shoulder. But I always remember on my debut, he was the first person to come over to me if I win a header. He was always well done. I cleared one off the line, it's an arm around the shoulder. So it really made you feel like I'm one of you type thing. And as I said, with it being such a whirlwind, I was watching him on Match of the Day the season before that in the Premier League. So to then have him as my teammate, it just felt so surreal. And then when I came on the pitch for my debut, Rob Hulse was the centre-half playing alongside me. And I remember he gave responsibility straight to me, saying, you're the centre-half, because he was a striker at the time. And he said to me, you're the centre-half, you tell me what to do. So it almost then brought more out of me, and they allowed me to be myself. And as you say, like, with people like that around you, it's very easy to kind of integrate yourself in, because they made you feel part of it. Even though you're a young lad, they made you feel like you're one of us, so you give to us and you speak up, and basically matured you really quickly. And as I said, like having role models like that around you is something that just grows you as a person.
And while you were at Derby, you had heart surgery, which was a incredible thing for anyone to have to go through at such a young age, but particularly when you're a professional athlete and your health is particularly important. Do you just explain a bit about sort of how that came to a head and what the process then was? Did the club support you through it as well?
Yeah, so like after I made my debut that season, I went home to Ireland, and then I was flying back just to try and potentially kick on again. Everybody like with the world at my feet, as I always call it. It's one of those things where you just want to hit the ground running and do as well as I done the previous season, and hopefully play for the first team. And we all had like our routine scans, we all had like our routine checkups, and my routine checkup came in that I had an abnormality in one of my valves in my heart. So when they investigated it a little bit more, they found I had a leak in my aortic valve. So I trained on a little bit more. I didn't have any symptoms, which they call lightheadedness, or whether it was feeling nauseous, or whether it was dizzy spells or breathless. Like I was still training every day. And we went and had a couple of more scans, and then those scans went to more specialists. And one of the scans, they told me on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst and 1 being the least, it was about a 7 or an 8 leaking back into my heart. So that means my heart was working twice as hard to keep the blood pumping out of it. So they investigated that a little bit more, and then they sent it off to a surgeon. And then the surgeon himself, I remember to this day that we sat in a little small office, and the surgeon came in. There was my mum, my dad, the Derby physio, and myself. And I remember he came in, he just put his notes on the table, and he had this model heart in his hand, and he said, "Mark, your heart is 3 times the size of what it should be, and if you don't have this operation done this year, you're going to die." So that in itself was probably something that didn't really hit home to what the severity of it is, because I only asked him the question, can I still play football? Yeah. Obviously, after making my debut the season before, it was all I wanted. And he told me I'd be lucky to play down the park with my friends, let alone play professionally again. So that part is probably what hit me the most, that I'll probably never get to play again. So as that happened, he read out the options that I could have, which one is a metallic valve, which means I had to be on a blood thinner, which meant I could never play again. Or the second one would be a pigskin valve, which is the one I opted for, because he said there'll be a slight chance you may play again, but he said probably never to a professional standard, and you'll probably get a year to a maximum of 5 years, but he said there's no guarantee of any of them years. It's just about if it takes to your body. So because there was that slight glimmer of it, I said, yeah, I'll have that one. Yeah. And once I ended up getting that operation, which took 6 hours long, Derby sent me home. It would have been October 2009. Derby sent me home for 3 months, and I came back in the January. And then from that January till the end of the season, it was all about just trying to get fit, just try and get fit. And again, it's almost starting from ground zero, like you're a baby, like you're crawling along, and then you're going from long distance walks to maybe a slight jog, and then long distance jogs. And then, as I said, it was a slow, very slow process, but Derby as a club gave me another 3.5 year deal. So that gave me time to be able to potentially get back playing again. And I had Nigel Clough on the phone to me when I was home in Ireland, checking in on me, checking in on my family, the club themselves as a physio, and the doctors, and even the players. Everybody was amazing with me, and I didn't have like an ounce of negativity around me. Everybody was just geared towards getting me back fit. So when you're 16 and very naive to the situation, you don't really see the severity of it until later in life when I look back at it. But as time went on, I ended up getting back playing. So I had the operation in October, and I got back playing around April time for the under-18s, and then I made the first team bench last day of that season against Cardiff at home. And that even in itself, even though I didn't play probably any football, or maybe just the back end of the season for the academy, felt like one of the most successful seasons for my mental state more than anything going forward.
And after Derby, you spent a number of years at Derby. After making your debut, you moved to Luton, but weren't there for anywhere near as long. Do you reflect on that as a tough time in your career, or more of a learning curve, would you say?
Luton was a tough time in my career. I remember I was 24, and it was one of these things where never experienced such a drastic managerial change, because normally when a new manager comes in you get given an opportunity to impress and see if he wants to keep you, but the minute he came in the door didn't want me around, and I could never get my head around, because in football I was never really a bad egg, as they call it. I was never like a bad tempered player, so I could never get my head around why I was not getting given the opportunity, which I used to always get told it was politics. Everything was politics. And I started to understand it a little bit, where if you get rid of me, he can bring in somebody he wants on the wages I was on. So I understood it, but I could never understand if it was me that gave away the opportunity by playing bad or doing something wrong. I said I totally understand, but I could never get my head around it, and it was a very difficult time in football, where I didn't have any injuries. I didn't have anything wrong with me, other than the fact of a manager just doesn't want me. So you never really have anywhere to turn, because you're having to turn up to training every day. I was training with the under 18s. I trained with the under 16s. I wasn't allowed to train with the first team. So all of that was something that I always say, with the certain adversities I've had through my career, as well as the open heart surgery, kind of set me up for this moment to keep me driven. Because I always thought, if I can overcome this, I can overcome the next thing, and I can always keep overcoming things if I can make it back from open heart surgery. And that in itself was something that it really tested me, because I've never experienced somebody not playing me for no other reason other than politics.
Yeah.
So once that came into it, I remember I just really struggled mentally for a long time, and I still kept coming in each day. I ended up going out on loan to Southport for a month just to get some games, and again it just kind of brought the love back of football. So deeper down, what it did show me is that I do have a strong love for football, and it did show me that I do have a really strong mental strength. But it was something that, again, it was another learning curve. As much as it was a tough time, it was another learning curve into find a place that you love playing. It's not about going to a place that have a big name and you try and just keep on going and looking for that next thing. It's go somewhere that you feel appreciated and you feel though you're wanted and you play your best football. So again, it was another learning curve for myself to, once I got that next move, which from going to Southport, I got me moved to Newport County. And that in itself was just polar opposites of a place that didn't want it to feeling like a home from home here.
So you mentioned you moved to Newport then from Luton. So I believe you joined Newport in the January and were essentially given a contract to the end of the season. Of course, we all know what happened at the end of that season. Could you just explain how that move came about and then how you settled in at Newport?
So the move came about was the manager of Southport that I went out on loan to was Dino Marmaria. And then he ended up getting an assistant managerial role with Graham Wesley at Newport. So I remember it got to around January time of that year, and I texted Dino Marmaria saying, look, I need to get out of Luton. Is there any opportunity to come to Newport? He said he would speak to the manager, and one thing led to another. I ended up meeting with Graham Wesley, and he was bringing in 12 new people. Newport were bottom of the league. He wanted to try something different. So, as I said, I just had to go to that meeting with no confidence whatsoever and kind of talk myself up and big myself up to say, look, I can come in and do this. I just need to play, and all the stuff that any footballer would say. And I ended up getting given the opportunity on the basis of, if Newport stay out of relegation, does a full-time contract here for me for the next 2 years. And if we get relegated, I don't get any off-season payment and there's no contract here. So it was kind of an all or nothing move. But when I was coming off the back of not playing for nearly 10 months, it was an opportunity I could never refuse. So I remember I shook his hand on that day, and then from that January till the end of that season, I played 20 odd games, and we got ourselves back to the last day of the season against Notts County, which, as I said, is probably one of the reasons I'm probably still here for. I scored my very first EFL goal in the 89th minute to keep Newport safe from relegation, which for me was something that really cemented me here, but it almost gave me that realisation that everything happens for a reason. So for the fact of never giving up through my whole career, that one little moment that you wait for was the moment that happened here at Newport. And as I said, I'll always look back and be grateful for it. But that move to Newport was something that had like really saved my career.
Did you ever imagine when you had that meeting with Graham Wesley that you would go on to score the goal that would stop Newport from falling out of the Football League and even then go on to captain the club as well?
I never thought anything. I just wanted to get back playing football. I literally just wanted to get myself back feeling happy and playing football and feeling the atmosphere of a stadium and just really enjoying me football again. And that was something that I only ever had in my mind. Obviously, you get set the incentive of going, it's going to be a massive turnaround, that if you do achieve this, it's going to be an amazing feeling. But the more we chipped away at it, like I said, it built up the resilience of the squad that we had going forward in the next years after that. And to be able to say some of the memories that I've had at this club, I would have never have said it at that very beginning, but I put it down to taking that chance and getting given that opportunity and repaying the club back for giving me a chance that some other managers probably wouldn't look at when you've only played one game in 10 months. So I was very lucky, but I'm also like very thankful for it.
And like I say, you went on to captain the club, and you were captain of the club when sadly you were forced to retire from playing football. Could you just go into a bit more detail, if you don't mind, about how that decision came about? It was something I assume you knew was going to have to happen at some point, but why did it happen at that specific point?
Well, COVID just hit and football came to a bit of a stop because nobody knew what was happening. And I remember we got given like an off-season program just to stay fit until football started back. And fortunately enough, we were able to go out cycling and do things, but everything was on a lockdown. And I remember there was one evening I was just sitting at home and I just got like a massive thump in my chest. And I could feel my neck pulse and I could feel my hands getting clammy. I could feel myself getting breathless and I didn't know what it was. And I remember I had to phone our club doctor. He told me it's probably nothing to worry about, because in the process of all of that, since I was 16, I got a heart scan every year. And that heart scan every year would tell me if I'm allowed to play the next year. So I was coming off the back of that heart scan a couple of months previous. So the doctor didn't think it was anything. And then I ended up having to then really pursue our doctor to say, look, something isn't right. So he got me a scan in Cardiff. I went for the scan in Cardiff and then found out that my valve was leaking, but I got told it was leaking very badly this time. So once I found out it was leaking, I always made the decision when I was 16 to say I was having one operation for my career, which I never knew how long it would be, to then the next operation was for the rest of my life. So when he told me it was leaking again, I remember I just burst into tears because I knew my career had stopped and I knew my career was over. And like none of the thoughts of I've got 11 years longer and all the positive that I've kind of taken from it, but I just felt devastated. I felt as though this can't be happening to me. Like, why did this have to happen to me? And I really felt beat up about it. And the decision always came where it was always, I knew it was going to be inevitable. I knew it was always going to happen. But I don't think you're ever fully prepared for that decision when it actually comes, and it broke me.
And like you said before, you're cemented at Newport. You've stopped playing, but you're still involved at the club. How does your role sort of fit in? Say on a match day, what does your day look like on a match day in terms of you work with the team and you work in the dugout?
Yeah, so like on a match day or through the week, I'm a person who's around helping people. Like I enjoy to try and help younger players and, like as you say, pick them up when they're down, give them advice if they need advice, try and talk with the defenders and just be that person who's going to just give them that little bit of an edge and that little bit of a fight that all young players need, and be the person that I had when I was at Derby. I had people arm around the shoulder and I know what it takes to integrate people in. So it's being able to give that back and be the person that I knew I would have loved to have someone like that at Luton when I was struggling. So to be able to give back them experience is second to none. And when you go out on a match day, show them what it actually means. Give them that little bit of an insight to what it takes to play for Newport County. Give them that insight to what these fans want and what this place needs to be successful. And like you say, being able to give that back to younger players and anybody who needs to come speak to me about stuff on the field or even off the field. As I said, like I'm that kind of an open book that I'm here to help anybody.
And do you think you'll spend the rest of your career in football at Newport County? I mean, you clearly have such a love for the club and the city. You've given a lot to the city, and it's given a lot back to you. Can you see yourself here for a long time?
I can see myself here for a while. As I said, nobody knows what the future holds. Nobody knows what's next around the corner. But for a place that has welcomed me with open arms at the time when I needed a club the most, and have stuck by me through so many different things, and even after the operation, does it really stick by me? I owe everything to this club, and I want to see the club back to the successful ways that I know it can be, and hopefully push for that thing that unfortunately I was never able to reach, which was the promotion. But as you say, I'm a lover of Newport. It's a place that has just taken me in, and like I said, it's a place that will always be very close to my heart.
It was amazing to hear the inspirational story of Mark's career. He's a true role model for all former professionals and shows that there is a lot more to life after playing.